Well, kia ora koutou katoa. Thanks, Ben, for the introduction, and thank you to the mana whenua, Ngāti Whātua, for that wonderful mihi whakatau, and the singing was great. I was sitting there next to Doug Selman, and we were reflecting on how uplifting singing can be. We need more of it. Look, it's a great privilege to be here. I feel actually very humbled to be in front of you all and to be a part of the conference. My job is to open it and to help the organisers by getting it back on time. So I won't speak for too long. It's a great theme for the conference. I'm very into this idea of thinking about the future. I'm excited, like Ben said, about the future. However, we need to understand the present and the past to be able to then change the future, and that's, I guess, what this conference is about. I want to acknowledge all of you in the room who every day are doing the mahi to help people with addictions and, as Ben said, to help them live their best lives, and particularly those with lived experience. And I just want to taukau your compassion, your courage in bringing your experience to bear and helping others to improve their lives and to overcome their addictions. I also just want to acknowledge the Ministry of Health team. This is a very small team. Many of you will know Robin Shearer, who's Deputy Director General Mental Health and Addiction. I'm just thrilled to have Robin in the ministry. She's providing great leadership. Richard Taylor, who manages our addictions team, is here for the duration of the conference. He's a fine young guy, and for those of you who work with him, you will know that, and I really commend them and the team to you. You've got a fantastic lineup of speakers here today. I was privileged last night to be part of a small dinner hosted by Ngāti Whātua up at Ōrake Marae, and I met some of the international speakers you've got. They're impressive, and I'm sure they will inspire you with their insights, so I commend them to you. And I also just want to acknowledge Doug Selman, who I've been sitting beside here. He's doing the John Dobson Memorial lecture a bit later, and Doug and I got to know each other a bit earlier in my career, a few years ago. In an earlier role in the Ministry of Health, I was chairing the Interagency Committee on Drugs and the Expert Advisory Committee on Drugs, and the latter is the committee that determines how drugs should be classified under the Misuse of Drugs Act. I was a pretty junior public servant, and this committee included people like Doug with expertise in addiction, as well as colleagues from police and customs. It was quite an interesting group to try and navigate through the process. Doug's contribution was immense, and in fact he startled the people on the committee from police and customs by trying out at the time party pills. You may remember them, benzylpiperazine. So Doug came and gave us a lovely description of the work he had done on behalf of the committee to give them some insights into what the effects of party pills were. And the customs and police guys were sort of sitting there with their eyes wide open. He and Jeff Robinson and Richard Beasley also did a wonderful piece of work that did an assessment of alcohol against the criteria in the Misuse of Drugs Act. And I think the paper got published even in the British Medical Journal? Yeah. Doug will tell you later on. He's going to give you a wonderful address. But it was a really nice assessment, and they assessed alcohol. If you assessed it against the criteria in the Misuse of Drugs Act, it would be a Class B substance. Just to put that in context, marijuana is a Class C substance. So that created a bit of a stir, and I think was a really good contribution to the debate around alcohol in our society. So we all know substance abuse, you know better than I do, is an important issue for us to all be thinking about and addressing. And it's not just because of its impact on health and well-being, but because it impacts on so many dimensions of people's lives and of our society. And if I think about the broader determinants of health, which is an area I'm very interested in coming from a public health background, its impact on employment, on homelessness, family violence, sexual violence, all major issues that this government's got a keen focus on. And last year it was part of the review that the government set up, the inquiry into mental health and addiction, which led to the report Heara Oranga, the team led by Ron Patterson, a fantastic group of people, and I want to acknowledge the work they did, and actually an excellent report and influential report. In the government's response, they accepted or acknowledged they would be doing further work on 38 of the 40 recommendations, and the impact that report then had on this year's budget where mental health and addiction were the government's centrepiece really for a very substantial investment, and that included investment in primary mental health and primary addiction services, as well as a range of other things, expanding access and choice to primary mental health and addiction, enhancing addiction responses across the board, ensuring our existing specialist alcohol and other drug services are sustainable, including funding to attend conferences like this, Tuari. Continuing the Te Ara Oranga methamphetamine harm reduction program, which is underway up in Northland, and expanding the pregnancy and parenting service, which is in 3 locations around the Motu, to a further 2 locations, and that work's underway as well. I just want to talk about, I've alluded to the work I was involved in previously around assessing substances for their harm, really, under the Misuse of Drugs Act. And you will know as well as I do that the policy shift that has happened, in particular in response to Hei Ara Oranga, but really on a background of growing advocacy and a desire to actually take a different approach to drug-related harm. So the shift from a criminal justice-based approach to a health-based approach to addiction is fundamental to us making a change and being more successful in actually helping people with addictions in the future. And it really provides a strong platform for your mahi and for really a shift in policy in the way we support people with addictions and their families and whānau and communities to achieve better outcomes. So it's a significant shift. We've of course been deeply involved in the policy work on that, working with colleagues across police and many other departments. And again, I want to just commend the work that's gone on from not just our team but across the public service on that to support the government's ambition. It's a signal change, and that opens up an opportunity and supports an opportunity to really help define new models of care. And I think that's one of the things you'll be doing in this meeting, and you'll be able to draw on the inspiration of each other, but also of our speakers from overseas who will bring new ideas and insights. So there will be change ahead, and we should welcome that. And this conference is a great point at which to think about what those new models of care might look like on that profound change in the way that we as a society might look at and respond to addiction. So I just want to commend the team who are convening the conference and for putting that really right front and centre, and that looking back, that understanding why are we where we are now, so that we've got better insights into what we need to do differently to help people in the future. We're very happy to step into our role in helping facilitate the development of those new models of care, working with all of you and a huge range of key stakeholders. And we'll be initiating a piece of work. Look forward to involving you in that around those new models of care, and then how we commission those and how we deliver those and how we improve them. I want to talk just briefly about Māori health, and in particular a process that I've already been part of, only a few weeks into the job last year, and that is the Waitangi Health Services and Outcomes Inquiry, Y2575. The first phase of that inquiry looked at primary health care, and some of you may have seen the report that came out in July, the interim report from the inquiry panel chaired by Stephen Clark. And I think that inquiry is going to be, and the reports that come out of it, and it's going to be time, it's over a few years, but they're going to provide excellent insights to inform and enable where we go with addressing Māori health and equity in this country, and in being able to rethink how we deliver on, as a society, how we deliver on our obligations under the treaty to Māori and non-Māori. We all know that Māori are not served equitably by our healthcare system, and that some still experience poor outcomes. And there's no worse inequity than knowing that you are going to die 7 years earlier by virtue of being born Māori rather than non-Māori. And that's not tenable, and it's not acceptable, and we should all be, and we are motivated to address that. So I think the inquiry is really timely. It's another platform from which we can build greater understanding and to have conversations that will allow us to do things differently into the future. The overwhelming message really from that stage one of the inquiry and the report that came out in July was that Māori whānau, hapu and iwi must have rangatiratanga. It's there in the treaty. They must have that opportunity to exercise control over their own health and well-being. And the obligation of the Crown is to support them to do that. The Crown, kia ora, Tuari, I appreciate you talking that comment. Yeah, got Tuari on side there, well, that's good. But the obligation is on the Crown there, and it's an Article 1 obligation, is there to govern and enable Māori to exercise that rangatiratanga. And then Article 3 is about, so for the benefit of all people, Māori and non-Māori alike. Equity, it's there, and we're so privileged to have that as a founding document for this nation. The challenge and the opportunity now is to give it even more life. Okay, what else do I want to say, because I do want to help get back on time. Oh, just a little word about leadership, this, looking back, moving forward. Again, I'm really interested in the understanding the present and the past as to why we are where we are now. And some of you will be aware, as Tuari reflected, there are a lot of reviews and inquiries going on, and one of the reviews is into the whole health and disability system that's been undertaken by Heather Simpson and a panel. And that interim report came out just a couple of weeks ago, and some of you may have read all 300 pages of it. I read just about all 300. I didn't read all the references, I'm sorry to say, but it's a very good summary of where we are at as a sector now. And what it allows us to do is think, okay, well, why? Why are we here? And one of the challenges it lays out this wero to those of us who are leading the sector. In fact, it doesn't even say we could use better leadership. It's pretty confronting. It says there is a lack of leadership. Okay, well, I'm in what I think is considered a leadership role, and I had a conversation last week with the District Health Board Chief Executives, and I said, well, here we are. There's a sense there's a lack of leadership. What are we going to do about it? Because we don't need to wait for the final report to step into that leadership opportunity. And the key question is, for me then, is what would great leadership look like in our system? And what do we need to do to enable great leadership? What would a well-led system look like? And there's the opportunity for us to define what that would look like. And I had some conversations with my staff yesterday and invited them to suggest to me what would a well-led health and disability system look like if we had great leadership, and so that people would look and say, yes, we don't lack leadership, we have great leadership. And in the Ministry of Health, I've been there just over a year, and right from the start been talking about our role as leaders in the sector. And our role is not a command and control role, it's a convene and collaborate leadership. It's a leadership that involves others, and it's not about central direction, it's about getting nationally agreed priorities and then enabling the sector to deliver. So leadership for me is about ensuring direction, and that's not giving direction. Leadership is listening, so it's ensuring direction, generating energy, that's what you're here to do, which gives focus and commitment and change, and you get stuff done. A word quickly then about the role of peer support. And I think, again, part of the future models of care will see even more of this as a centrepiece, both in mental health and addiction, and investment in that. And I just want to acknowledge how fundamental that role is to both mental health and addiction services. And I think the evidence is growing of the importance of that. Plays a huge role, I know, in the substance addiction area, and we need to not just acknowledge but include peer services, peer support, people with lived experience much more, and not just the delivery but the design of services and what we fund and why. So finally, just looking to the future, we've got this opportunity to develop new models of care, changed approaches, not for the sake of it, but because we all aspire to do better. We have a strong platform on which to build that at a policy level, and with a big investment by the government in services, a real opportunity to think how might we do things differently, and in particular, how might we address those fundamental inequities in our system and the role that addiction plays on that, so getting to the root causes. So we'd aspire to see future models that reduce harm from addiction and substance use, that improve well-being across various domains, that increase resilience in communities and amongst individuals and whānau, where people receive appropriate and timely support to help minimise harm, and where there's more effective and culturally appropriate service responses available. So it'll only be possible through your ongoing work, your engagement, and I just want to thank you again for your work, for your commitment, for your compassion, and for your vision. And I look forward to hearing about the outcomes of the conference. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, kia ora koutou katoa.